And welcome everybody to TNM Unplugged. I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Vivian Ladamato. Today's podcast is a departure from what we usually talk about, but we could not resist, as our guest has a very interesting perspective on who we are and why are we here. Ismael Perez wrote the book, Our Cosmic Origin, that covers Earth's place in the multiverse, our galactic history, and the organization of our cosmos. Welcome, Ismael.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Vivi, let's dive into a first question from Ismael.
Oh, well, you said it, a big question. Let's start with the really big ones, Ismael. We've got a lot to go through. So let's get straight. Why are we here? And I don't mean you, me, and Zoran here. I mean us here. Why are we here? What is the purpose of all this?
We're here to fuse the higher dimensions with the lower dimensions, to integrate spirit and matter, to spiritualize matter so that matter could also become eternal, just like the etheric spheres and the spiritual spheres. So we're here to do that. We're here to anchor and embody the higher consciousness with the lower, with the the matter or the bodies that we have. So it's more of an integration process, where it's multidimensional integration. So we're here to anchor in higher dimensions with lower dimensions, and that is a true meaning of establishing a heaven on earth. It's bringing forth these higher planes of reality and collapsing them with the lower planes of reality, so that heaven could also exist on a physical level of reality, not just on an etheric or spiritual level.
Okay, and why are we doing that? Why does that matter? Why is it important?
Oh, it's very important. It's part of the cosmic divine plan to spiritualize matter. It's the reason why we encased in physical forms. However, we do have a different avatar on every level of reality. So even though we're here in the third dimension, we're still operating simultaneously in other levels of reality, all the way to the 12th dimension. So the whole purpose of coming here is to integrate those higher selves, our higher versions, with our physical form. That is the purpose why we're here.
Okay, you just said I've just got two follow-up questions, Zoran, and I'm going to hand to you. But you mentioned their divine plan. Are you saying that this is God's work?
Yes, the universal architect. Yes.
The universal architect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So God's plan, and this is about us anchoring our higher selves in this carnation, in this in-flesh thing that we're doing here.
Yes, and that's the true meaning of ascension. It's not that we're going anywhere. It's not that we're actually bringing in, anchoring higher levels of reality into the here, spiritualizing matter so that matter can become eternal.
Okay, go for it, Zoran. Yeah.
And that divine plan and God's plan. What is God to you?
God is an energy field. It is energy vibrating at its highest frequency. It is an eternal energy without beginning or end. And it is an energy field that exists throughout all the living things throughout the multiverse. Everything is embedded with this unified consciousness, which is the mind of the all. And that is what God is. So everyone in existence, every species, every planet, every star, every universe is an embodiment of that energy field. So we could assume that the creator and the creation are one and the same. There is no separation. The creation is an extension of what has already existed. It's the manifest portion of the unmanifest. The unmanifest portion is eternity. It is energy that has never been created nor destroyed. The manifest portion is it's what we're experiencing.
So we are, if I'm not mistaken, what you're saying is we are the expression and the experience of God.
Exactly. And it is through our experience that this high, level of vibration, this unified consciousness expands. It is through everyone's experiences that the greater, larger consciousness system, which is the mind of the all, continues growing in higher complexes or in higher complex levels of order or order levels of complex. I don't know how that goes, but it continues to expand through our experiences.
Yeah. So how does this relate to organized religion and the scriptures? Is that a part of that? Is that a red herring? What's the relationship with that?
Well, organized religion is an instrument of the Luciferian Brotherhood to keep mankind divided and to keep us at a very low level of understanding what we really are. And what we really are is God's source and embodiment. We're multidimensional beings. And so religion was created, just to let you know, religion only exists in primitive worlds. It doesn't really exist in the higher levels of reality. So it is a system, a tool used by the dark side to lock a species into a reincarnational cycles where the species can no longer find their own connection to the divine or to their higher self. And so that's why they act as mediators, and they set up priest caste and hierarchies and popes and pastors and bishops to be the mediator between each and every single one of us and our higher self. And our higher self is really that portion of prime creator source,
right?
That we all are.
So they're kind of like the middlemen who insert themselves between us and creator, are that part of us also, which is the part of creator, right?
Correct. Yes.
So the scriptures, is there anything in there that is true? Should we be reading them, or are they, again, just a part of organized religion and an aim to misinform us?
Well, the original scriptures were taken by the CDC plates that were left during the times of Atlantis, and they were known as the Emerald Records. So the Emerald Records, in its original purity, described, the teachings of the Law of One, described true galactic history, described the different levels of initiation in order to reunite back with our higher self. But throughout the millenniums, after the Earth was intercepted by the fallen ones, or what we call the regressive, ETs, the negative Anunnaki, which came through the line of Enki, not Enlil, kind of switched everything around in order to confuse us. And so now what we consider the Bible and scriptures, modern day scriptures, are just modified, tainted versions of the original copies. But the way they did it is it's still in its very metaphorical form. So there's different levels of the Bible is written on different levels of understanding. It's not just been modified and all that, but at the same time, it's the metaphors are still there. The metaphors that lead you into that higher level of consciousness are still there if you know how to decipher them. So right now, it's just a book of symbology, very metaphorical.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, that really speaks to my. I just felt exactly the same thing. There's so much wisdom in these words, and there are so many metaphors and interesting stories that really do reflect sort of some basic truths about our existence here. There's also an awful lot of stuff that doesn't resonate. So
yeah, like women came from man, male-dominated world, patriarchy. That was all installed by the Luciferian Brotherhood. When the original Bible was all about the balance with the great divine feminine, it was about venerating the mother god as much as the father god. But really, at the highest level, seeing it as non-gender, as pure energy. Pure energy becoming masculine and feminine, but in a balance form. And that's what is known as Sophia and the Christ, right? The reuniting of Sophia and the Christ.
And you mentioned a few times Luciferian Brotherhood. Tell us about that, and how can you decode that and explain what is that for? What is the role in our galactic history?
Well, the Luciferian Brotherhood in our galaxy originated in Orion. It started with the Draco in the Alpha Draconis system, lower Orion belt, and that's where their initial plans for a galactic domination began. So what we're witnessing here is just a rather smaller reflection of that agenda through the Cabal families, because the Cabal families are also families that you could trace their lineage back to Orion. And so that's the origin of the Luciferian manifesto in our galaxy. But if you want to go back to where it originated, it actually originated in the 11th creation. I'm sorry, the 11th universe. We're part of the 12th creation. And so in the 11th universe that was devoted to the development of technology and mechanics, that's where the original, you could say, the fallen overseer of that creation became seduced by the king of the archons and developed the first AI system. And as a result of that, that's when the original Luciferian agenda was born. All Luciferianism, again, goes back to this ancient invasive AI, which is at the core of all Luciferianism, which means anti-life, the destruction of life as we know it.
So if God is the creator of all things, why create this Luciferian, what you described, I saw in an interview you did, as a transhumanist takeover of organic life? Why would God do that?
Because we live in a free will universe where everything is allowed. But also bear in mind that God is in control, and that's why, you know, in the aftermath, or at the end of this war against AI, we do win the war. You know, so it's part of the duality. It's part of you know, honoring free will, and also I believe that it is through opposition, you know, that the overall mind of God expands. So that's why, you know, everything is allowed, but at the same time, everything is under control. You know,
Mm.
allow His creation to be destroyed.
Okay, so that's why we have polarity, and is that right? And that's why we have this, you know, you have to have bad to have good, you have to have dark to have light, and the whole idea of us is this the same thing as saying this whole idea is we have to choose God, we have to choose the light, it has to be our free will.
Absolutely. So that gives rise to, you know, free agency. It is through our choices.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so Zora, do you have any more questions about the why before we move into the sort of the playing field that we're in here?
Not really. That's an interesting explanation to why, because a lot of the people, you know, especially if they connect to the God creator source, they will have those questions to why is this game happening? On a certain level, we see it as a game as well, from our perspective, game of life, and how and why we play it. So it would be lovely for us to move into the mechanics of this reality. So I'm passing it on to you.
So, holographic universe, is that an accurate description of the playing field that we're in, this life?
yes, we're part of a 15-dimensional time matrix system that began 998 billion years ago when the first universe came into.
Okay.
So everything from the 12th dimension down is considered a simulation. It is, you know, held together by some sort of geometrical pattern that allows the spirits to learn and experience on each level of reality. So the higher you go in dimensions, the easier the simulation gets. You know, right now in the third dimension, which is the lowest form of light energy vibrating, it is considered the densest and the hardest experience for all souls that are incarnated here. And that's why the most powerful souls were able to come down in physical form. So everything acts as a training ground, you know, because at the highest level of reality, what's really expanding is the eternal spheres. The eternal spheres are expanding one outer space level at a time. So everything that exists within our multiverse exists just within the first concentric circle, extending from the eternal spheres outward. You know, all the universes are part of that concentric circle. When that, cycle is done, which is now finishing due to the ascension of the Earth, you know, we get ready to explore now the second concentric circle. And so right now, the Earth's ascension is going to mark the completion of what I call in my book the seventh super universe of Orvonton, which is one of 7 segments that make up the central motherverse. And then that's going to allow for a new creation or new you know, universes to be formed and be created at the same time.
Mm.
Okay. So this, you say everything below the 12th dimension is a simulation, so a holographic simulation, right? How does that work? You said something there about the geometry and the mathematics of it. Is so what we know, what we already know in the mainstream about sacred geometry and mathematics, is that all accurate? You know, the ratio of things like the pyramids to the sun and everything, is that all true and relevant and accurate?
Yes, very true. The entire simulated 12-dimensional time matrix is generated through mathematical equations. Yes, it is the same. I guess they use the same system that people use when they create, you know, computer games, you know, stuff like that. It's the same, I guess, principle that they apply the binary system. So, you know, we live in a universe of zeros and ones.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is by that mathematical equation. that allows the simulation to feel real and feel solid. But in essence, it's just all empty space because it's all just energy vibrating at different levels of reality.
Wow. I mean, you know what? I'm old enough to remember when binary mathematics was introduced to school system in the UK where I was educated. And I can remember sitting in my maths class. I was not good at maths. And one of the teachers walked in and to announce to us that from the following year, we would be doing a totally new kind of mathematics called binary mathematics. And she explains that it only has, 0, 1 basically. And I thought, oh, thank God, it's going to be so easy. I can handle that. How difficult can that be? Little did I know just how complex it is. And in fact, how fascinating it gets when you take a look at mathematics from that point of view, kind of like real math, if you like. So quantum physics, quantum mechanics, string theory, all of that, that's all relevant and true and important in your perspective on the universe and the life that we live, right?
Yes.
Okay, fascinating stuff, fascinating stuff. So anything else that we need to be aware of about the way that this works? When it comes to the idea of us co-creating, thought creates, it's a simulation, therefore, of course, it's malleable. What do we need to know in order for us to be playing our role to the optimum and in getting us to the next level as quickly as possible, where it's less dense and less difficult?
Coming to the realization that your thoughts are co-creating simulation at the same time, because we are different. At the highest level of reality, we are a prime creator source. So we created the simulation. So when you realize that you're also part of the creation and that you contributed to the creation, then you're more mindful of your thoughts, because depending on what your thoughts are vibrating at, because your thoughts are electromagnetic impulses, right, that create reality. Everything in the material planes of realities is just a thought projection. And that's what gives, solidity to the simulation. So by controlling your thoughts and your emotions, you're actually co-creating the different, realms of realities that exist. And also you're choosing to vibrate at any particular, with any particular timeline that you choose to be in, depending on your thoughts and emotions. That's the timeline you ultimately end up in.
Whoa, so those words of a much older and wiser Greek than me, know thyself, was really important. To really know yourself and to be really careful about what's going on in your head.
Very, yes, because our thoughts are co-creating the simulation as I speak. Yeah, and also our thoughts are connected to the quantum field. The quantum field is more real than the material realms. The quantum field is part of the pure energy. It's part of where there is no malleable matter, time, or space. It's just all energy. So your thoughts are actually influencing the quantum field every time you think. Yeah.
So my question there in this simulation of game of life is that to be mindful of one's thoughts and to be able to really be in relationship and see them as a creative tools, it requires a lot of work, so to say. Sometimes it's not easy and effortless. So what is your practice, Ismael, when it comes to you being able to be in relationship with your thoughts and controlling your thoughts and using your thoughts as an instrument of reality creation?
Just practicing mindfulness meditation and breathing, focusing on the breath, and then also learning how to calm the mind and just narrowing your focus on the things that you want to manifest.
So it's about focusing and narrowing your focus to what you really want to manifest in this moment right now. What about kind of simultaneous thoughts? Like, did you ever find yourself in a situation when you have multiplicities of thoughts happening at the same time, and what do you do then?
What you do is you just narrow it in to only the thoughts that you want to manifest.
So all the Hindus and Buddhistic religions and everything that is happening in the spiritual world when it comes to mastering of one's mind and no mind and being able to really be in relationship with thoughts, it's true on a certain level. We really need to be able to master that to co-create reality, right?
Absolutely. Because the reason why we experience unfortunate circumstances is because we're not in control of our thoughts. We allow negative thoughts to come in, and unfortunately that's the reality that we're going to be experiencing.
Okay.
And how do we? Before I pass it on to you, with these negative thoughts that are happening in our mind, I've heard sometimes from many different speakers that not all the thoughts that we have in our mind are our own thoughts. That sometimes, yeah, can you comment on that?
Sure, yeah, sometimes because we're all connected telepathically via a mind hive, sometimes we're picking up on the thoughts of others. And then sometimes it's thoughts that are being placed in your head by negative entities that exist in the astral realm or other dimensions. So, one way to be discernful is by stepping back and just becoming an observer of your thoughts and seeing which thoughts are yours and which thoughts are not yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I practice that, Vivian. I know you do. I mean, I know that our listeners do as well, because that's an interesting thing, because we identify with our thinking so much that we believe we are our thoughts, and we don't have a space of discernment to really decipher what is mine and what is not mine. I was just happy that you responded to that. Vivian, passing on to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to observe yourself and recognize I am not my mind. I am the one who's witnessing what's going on in my mind, and just practicing doing that. It's just so simple. But what you're saying, Ismael, just reminds us of just how important that is. In fact, it's the number one thing. So what do you think about psychedelics? A lot of people say that it was when they were tripping on something like, mushrooms or LSD, or when they were doing something like ayahuasca, that they had an awakening. What's your opinion about psychedelics?
I don't really practice psychedelics, but I do believe that within the plant or what they call the mushroom community, things that are like ayahuasca, things that are from the earth, are there to aid us to expand our consciousness. Parts like chemical, like LSD, that stuff is bad for you.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend doing it. The best way to do it is by learning how to go within, because we all have the natural ability to access those levels of consciousness without anything. But if you want to boost, it's good to just stick to like the things that the elders have been doing for forever, like ayahuasca and medicine mushrooms and stuff like that. But other than that, like I wouldn't really do it, because also you have to learn how to not depend on tools. You have to learn how to do it yourself. It's like, when do you take the training wheels off the bike? So
yeah.
And now, what about things like lucid dreaming? And when we're in a dream state, what is that? What is our dreaming? What tell us about that?
Oh, that is our higher self. Or sometimes when we're tapping into different versions that exist in alternative universes. So when your body's resting, because there's only a portion of your mind that embodies this avatar in the third dimension. The other 98% of your consciousness is operating on different dimensions and in parallel universes in different bodies. So everybody has a different, slightly different version that exists in an alternative Earth. So when you dream, you kind of tap into these other versions of yourself. And that's why some people say, in my dreams, I could fly. In my dreams, I have these amazing telekinetic abilities. I could do things that I couldn't do in this reality. Well, that's because in that universe, that's what you're capable of doing. Every different.
Okay. And what is lucid dreaming? I have friends, one friend in particular, who's able to be awake in their dream and conscious of the fact that he's dreaming. Is that relevant, or is that just, something that happens to us sometimes?
That is you tapping into the astral and being aware of what you're doing in the astral level of reality. Yes. So that's what they call lucid dreaming. It's you being consciously aware that you're operating in without your physical form in a different level of reality that doesn't require this body. And it's very real. You have your astral body, you have your etheric body, and then you have your light body. So there's different subtle versions of yourselves that exist in lesser dense energy planes of reality.
Okay.
What I would love to take it now, it's something that always interests me. It's this amnesia or veil of forgetting. What is the purpose of that? How is that serving us? And how do we lift up that veil and start remembering more of ourselves on different levels of existence?
Well, the whole purpose of that is to remember who we are. Everything has meaning in life, and as I speak, the veil is being lifted as more and more in to wake up. And so, because everything serves a purpose, the whole purpose of forgetting who we are when we come in here is so that through willpower and choice, we can begin to unravel, what we really are and stuff. And that's what it's known as enlightenment. When people begin to, you know, begin to question things, begin to go within, and then they discover a whole new different level of reality that they had no clue about. And then that's when they grow spiritually to remember who they were. And the ultimate level of enlightenment is samadhi, which is realizing that you and God are the same, that God is you or God, and everything is God.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that one. And I have a little follow-through question there. What about pain and suffering? You know, I am, for example, very empathic. And when I look into the humanity as it is right now, you can really plug into that state of suffering because a lot of people are suffering, you know. So what is the purpose of suffering? Is it something that we have to go through in the school of life to be able to become better possible version of ourselves? Or is it something that is created to prevent us into reaching our full evolutionary potential?
Yes, it's something that is necessary in order for us to have a higher degree of exaltation and evolutionary potential. So sometimes suffering is where we, you know, that's where we begin to want to seek God and understand, you know, things for what they really are. It is through our state of suffering.
So when we don't have any other choice, you know, it's so painful basically through suffering, then we don't have a choice but to look forward and to start looking and finding God within, right?
Absolutely.
Just hold on a second, Ian. What about state of the world when it comes to poverty? So let's say that we look into a poverty that creates suffering and a lot of people are in poverty. Is that something that's necessary? Because sometimes, you know, I walk around when I'm traveling or in my own community and I see poverty on the streets, I see people on the street, I see their suffering, and I'm really, really questioning the reality as the matrix of creation. Is this really necessary? Is it really necessary for that human being to be on the floor, on the street, suffering without food? You know what I mean by that?
It's also karma balancing. A lot of the people that are being born into unfortunate living conditions is because in prior lifetimes they might have been killers, they might have been very wealthy that took from you know, the masses, sold, and now they're experiencing the opposite of that. So it's also part of karma balancing.
Yeah. So that's one take on that. You know, balancing their karma is necessary for them to have this experience to be able to, you know, level it up. Okay, great. Vivian, back to you.
Well, I was going to ask something else, but now that you mention it, tell us about karma. What is the purpose of karma? It's not a punishment, is it?
Oh, not at all. That's what religion's take is. It is a way to learn from our mistakes, and also it gives rise to accountability, you know, where everyone eventually becomes compelled to become responsible really for their own lives. You know, there is no outside source, you know, it's all within you. So if you suffer, it's because you put yourself in that situation. You know, get yourself in that situation is to really much change your mindset.
No, cause and effect. It's learning about cause and effect, recognizing that, and then saying, okay, I can cause something I want rather than something I don't want. And I can, yeah, okay. All right. So shall we take a look at fascinating stuff? I could go on for hours with this big picture stuff, but there are a lot of things that are going on in the world right now. And from what you're saying, the reason all of this is happening right now, I mean, it's astonishing what's happened over the last couple of years more, is because we're coming to the end of something and the beginning of something new. Something really huge is happening right now. How would you describe that happening?
It's we're in the midst of shifting into a new world age. We're ending different cycles. 2,160-year cycle of Pisces going into Aquarius. We're ending a 5,000-year cycle of entering the fifth world age. And we're also ending 5 of those, which is a 26,000-year cycle, where now we're going to be entering a whole new different era in cosmos, where there's going to be a new heaven, a new earth. So that's what we're experiencing right now. We're in the cusp of a shift of ages, and that's why things are climaxing. You know, they appear like they're getting worse, but technically it's because that old paradigm is coming to an end, and it's going to be replaced by a new paradigm.
When?
Between now and the next few years, I would say. You know, The original calendar ended in 2022, so it could be even this year.
Okay. And so what we're seeing now are all symptomatic of that. And I mean stuff like, the recent couple of years that we've had with the, disease thing going around, and things like, terrible fear in people about things like 5G and GM crops and pesticides and farming and meat and all that stuff. Are these all symptomatic of that?
Absolutely, yes, exactly.
Do any of those things concern you, Ismail? Are you worried about things like 5G or, injections and stuff like that?
Are only affecting those that have two strands of DNA active. For the most part, it means that all that stuff is not affecting our bodies. Way more advanced than what they thought, because our bodies are transforming at a molecular cellular level.
Okay. All right.
You got upgraded, Vivian. You need to not worry about anything. So even if it be the different.
No, listen, I stopped worrying. I stopped worrying. I guess I stopped worrying about a year and a half ago when I realized, I don't know, the connections between things. But, we don't want to sort of get into that conversation, because that conversation is had so often on the net. And I've heard you have it with so many people as well, Ismail. But there are a couple of things that specifically that I wanted to ask you about the current affairs situation. The Khazarian mafia, is that the same thing as the cabal that you were talking about? Is that the same thing as the, the Anunnaki or the Luciferian agenda? Khazarian mafia, what is that? And is that gone, or is that still active?
That's part of the cabal network. They're called the Zionist Bolshevik Khazarians, and they are no longer in power. They've lost power about as of May 6th. That's where when they were checkmated by the White Knights.
This year, May 6th this year.
In our timeline.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have to worry about the cabal anymore. We should have EBS and this huge data dump revelation to the world.
Okay, so this is this scenario that a lot of the truthers online talk about, where we're going to have this announcement and everybody's going to know the truth about what's been going on and understand that they're free.
Correct, yes.
It's such an enticing thought, and I've heard you talk about it with such certainty. And I think that's what a lot of people find so compelling about you, Ismail, that you speak with such absolute certainty. How do you know? How do you know? What can you say to people who are thinking, oh, I so want to believe that, but I look around me and I see mayhem and chaos?
Because what happens in this dimension is a reflection of what happens in higher dimensions. So in the higher dimensions, the war has already been won. In the astral plane of reality, the archons have been defeated. So now it's just a matter of it playing out here in our dimension. So that's how I know for sure. And plus, I'm in constant communication with the galactic commanders, and they have shared with me that we have nothing to worry about, that Earth is now on the positive timeline trajectory. Things are going to be unfolding for humanity that are going to bring a better structure, a better living condition for all of mankind.
And who are the galactic commanders that you're talking to? I mean, maybe you cannot disclose, but it's always area of interest. And how do you communicate with them?
Okay, so the main commander that is overseeing the Earth Project is a Pleiadian. He's at the head of the Pleiadian Federation. He's known as Commander Georges Seres Hatan, and he's pretty much leading the liberation of the Earth. The Alliance is working with him, but he's like at the head. We also have Commander Thor. What's his name? Thor. There's a different name for him. Valiant Thor. I'm sorry. He's representing the Venetian Council, and he's also working very closely with Commander Hayton. We also have a female commander known as Caligal, who is a legion between the Earth Alliance and the Federation, which consists of over 200,000 star systems just within the Milky Way. We also have the Ashtar Command, which is an intergalactic union of galaxies consisting of over 7 billion galaxies. We also have Commander Cortec, who's in charge of Interplanetary Communications Network. making sure that the accurate transmissions are being downloaded to the star seeds.
Yeah.
We have, there's just various, but those are like the main commanders. We have all ships.
How do we get to meet these guys? Can we meet these guys? I'm sorry, Zoran, you wanted to say. I bet you was the same question though. How do we get to meet these guys?
Yes.
Will, once we have EBS and disclosure, they're going to make an appearance in the physical.
Right.
In fact, Valiant Thor is already he's been working with the White Hats since the 1960s. So he's been operating from behind the scenes and helping the White Hats checkmate the Dark Hats.
Right. And when you get invited to the meeting, for example, is this a physical meeting when you get into that dimension by manifesting your physical form and sitting around in whatever structure, or do you go into this through the dream world? How does it actually happen for you to get all of this information and relationship with them?
It's when I go to sleep, I leave my body and I go back into my galactic body.
And then you remember when you come back from the sleep, you remember everything that happened, and that's how you kind of get information through, correct? That's beautiful. How did you, hold on a second, how did you manage to reach that state? Because I'm aware that a lot of the people, especially this moment in time, are looking up to you as somebody who is really there with the state and in the presence, in full power, with the confidence, that you exuberate in certainty. And we all need certainty in this ambiguous time, as Vivian said. So I'm curious about, as we are all family and we all team, we team light, let's say like that, and you have attained that level of presence and consciousness and ability to go there, be with those guys. What do we need to do ourselves to be able to support that? And what is the pathway for us to be a member of that light team?
Well, soon as the Earth becomes reinstated into the galactic community, many of us are going to be working with the Federation. Some of us are going to be commanders, overseers of galaxies. So it's all being prepped for us to work and with Federation forces. And the only reason I'm able to connect with them is because I am the chief leader of the Lyrian Federation.
What is that? Tell us about that.
Well, the Lyrian Federation was one of the first federations that was formed in our galaxy 6 million years ago, after the first galactic war in Lyra, when the Draco destroyed my home planet known as Abion. And so I was the one who sent out all the different Lyrians to the different parts of the galaxy to secure the human species in our galaxy. And I developed the first coalition of light, which was formed in Lyra. Then it extended to Sirius, and then it went to Orion. And finally, we created a federation of planets that consisted of over 200,000 star nations. But it was a slow process.
Cool. Now listen, how about this moon landing? Have we been to other planets? Are we going to go to other planets? To what extent are we going to expand our horizons? Did that already happen? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, within the private sector, we have over 300 bases established throughout the entire Milky Way galaxy. Most of those bases do belong to Solar Warden, the benevolent faction of the Secret Space Program. Just within our own solar system, we have about 100 colonies and bases. Some of them exist in huge asteroids like Vespa. Some of them exist in the moons of Jupiter. Of course, we have the Lunar Operating Command operating from our moon. And so we've already, within the private sector, we've already gone interplanetary and stellar. So it's just a matter of time of making those announcements to the rest of humanity.
Okay. And did we land on the moon, or was that fake? Who's right about that? I can't resist asking.
Well, they did land on the moon, but what they saw was something that they were told to not speak about, because when they got there, they realized that they had already been colonized and that many species were already there interacting. It looked like a huge city, kind of like Dubai. When you get to the dark side of the moon, it's all colonized. And that's what side of the moon.
Okay.
Civilization. So they covered it up. They didn't allow us to go back there because of the fact that the Nazis had already colonized the moon in the late 1940s. And then, of course, you know, the shadow government of the United States, known as the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, had also built out stations and bases on the moon as well. So that's the reason why they were trying to cover it up and say, the moon landing, never happened. And why we never really went back was because we had already established secret colonies on the moon.
Hey, fascinating. It's fascinating. Doran, did you want to come in with anything, or shall I just go on with my next one?
Go on. Yeah, I will comment later.
Okay, so when it comes to crop circles, are those fake, or were they actually created by craft from other planets or from extraterrestrial life, and what are they for?
They were created by the Federation to kind of help trigger our consciousness, because that's what they are. They're geometrical patterns that trigger us. They activate the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and so they are definitely here to assist in the raising of the collective consciousness.
Okay, and why don't we hear about them very much anymore? Have they stopped making them? Because I don't think there have been any new ones that I'm aware of anyway within the last few years.
No, they started coming in the 90s, early 2000s, in order to achieve the raising of the collective. And now that they've accomplished that, because we're getting ready to hit critical mass, they no longer need to make those anymore. So
Okay.
they have a purpose.
Yeah. It kind of all fits together, doesn't it, like a jigsaw? I think the thing that people are most concerned about right now, I mean, like you said, it's over, God wins. That's a very attractive proposition, I have to say, and one I'm absolutely happy to buy into. But people are a little bit worried about getting through these next few months or however long it's going to take, and especially financially. And wanting to know, where should they put their money? Where should they put their faith? Should they be investing in crypto? Should they be investing in precious metals? Should they get their money out of the bank? Do you have any advice for people?
Either, stay away from cryptocurrency. The only system that's going to be valid and accurate when the white hats take over is the quantum financial system, which is going to be backed up by precious metals and gold.
Okay, so there's no cryptocurrencies that you would advise anybody to invest in?
Correct. Yeah, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is just not. It's part of the cabal system. The only is XLM and XRP. Those are the only two that are that were developed by the Alliance that are connected to the quantum financial system, or the new quantum financial system. Okay. But everything, crypto, as we know it, is all coming to an end with the current fiat structure as well.
Okay. Any questions about that, Zoran?
The audience who don't know, what is quantum economic system? What is it? I mean, I know this is a difficult question and very broad question, but in a nutshell, if you were to explain it to the beginner, what is it?
The quantum financial system is it's a very reputable, functional system that has been used across many galaxies. Many stellar civilizations have used it in a way where the people that are mostly wealthy in those societies are those with the biggest heart. So it's an actual living computer that registers how much compassion you have, and the more compassion you have, the wealthier you're going to be, because in turn you use that wealth to help the others. And that's why they use this system to create utopias, perfect civilization where everything's in balance. There is no halves or have-nots. There is no secrecy. Everything, and they can't even. There's no hacking. It's impossible to hack.
And I'm assuming that once when we move into the quantum system, there will be a transition phase when we will be kind of adjusted to that new level of exchange, basically, because the more we give, the more love, exuberate, the more unconditional we are, the more abundant we are, which is the essence of abundance, actually, on a certain level. But there will be a transition phase, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
Vivian, any question about XRP and Bitcoin? I know that you're quite passionate about Bitcoin, and so I would love to give you a little bit of space if you want to ask that.
Yeah. I mean, that, you know, it's like I'm trying to get my head around this idea that XRP and XLM. My understanding, you see, of XRP is that it's a sort of almost a replacement for the SWIFT system of, you know, moving money about, a much more effective, efficient, and cheaper way of moving money about, and that actually it only has a place within a central banking system. So it was sort of like the bridge between the sort of new sort of digital system coming in and the old banking system. So that confuses me a little bit. And also the thing about Bitcoin, which is really the only decentralized currency. It's not really a cryptocurrency even, is it? But Bitcoin sort of stands alone in terms of, you know, its creation and the fact that it doesn't have a team, a CEO, or any kind of centralization, nobody making decisions about it. And it sort of only exists as far as, you know, the network who have it exist, and it can't, nothing can happen to it. Nothing. It's a little bit like gold. That's why I guess they call it digital gold. So I have to say, I have trouble getting my head around this idea that XRP and XLM would be, you know, part of the quantum financial system, but that, you know, a sort of an asset like Bitcoin would not be. I have to say I struggle with that one. But, you know, a lot of this stuff is outside of the usual boxes. Sorry, Mr.
Yep.
Ismael.
Changes take place. We're going to know what works and what doesn't. You know, but I wouldn't worry about where to invest your money right now, because it's all, this current, you know, system is coming to an end as we know it.
Yeah.
And
So you
that's
mean
good to know.
our whole relationship with wealth and ownership and what it takes to survive, I guess everything will shift and that won't matter anymore. Is that what you're saying, Ismael?
Yeah, we're going to go beyond money. You know, even in the fifth dimension, no financial system.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Sorry.
But it's great to address this, because a lot of the people who are still not awakening to this reality, you know, continuously worry. And if you go back into the notion that this game, it's all about our thoughts co-create our reality, and the quantum field is very important. It matters what each and every of us feel and how do we relate, especially to money and financial system, because if you get this worry away, then we can also focus on what we need to focus on. So Ismael, what do we need to focus our attention to at this moment in human history right now in July 2022?
Only focus on the type of reality that you want to experience. Don't give yourself to fear-based porn. You know, allow yourself to be centered, grounded, and just try to put all your energy and focus on the type of life that you want to manifest and the type of life that you want to see manifested for all of humanity at this time. Because that's the timeline that we're going to end up in.
And how do we help ourselves not to buy into that fear porn, to navigate away from that negative realities, especially that is driven by mainstream media? Because I'm still in relationship with people who are still watching news on a daily basis. I don't do it myself, but there's people in my business community, in my networks, who are hooked into this, and they are plugged into this Borg of mainstream media. So how do we support ourselves to unplug from that and start focusing to what we really want to see?
Well, the best thing to do is just, you know, isolate yourself from these people. Choose wisely who your new group of friends should be. And yeah, just ignore these people.
Right. Good. One last question from me and Vivian, then you can wrap it up because we have 5 minutes left. So a lot of our friends in our community are curious about you as a human. I mean, we can see you as a galactic warrior, as a teacher, as somebody who is in relationship to the Federation and beyond Federation. But a lot of the people are always curious about your human life, you know, you in this dimension. You know, we know about you in all other dimensions. And when you start talking, we can see that, you know, people who are tuning into that energetic level, you can see the images, we can see how you're there. But in this lifetime, in this form, what makes you happy? What makes you joyful?
What makes me joyful is my teaching, my passion for writing, for research. I also am a father. I have a 22-year-old daughter. I have a 16-year-old son. I have a wife who is currently terminally ill. So I raised the family, and yeah, it's to me it was all about balancing my third dimensional life with my spiritual work.
And your kids, because I have kids in similar age than you, how do they relate to your work? What do they say when they listen, for example, to this podcast, or they say, "Oh my God, Dad wrote this book. Look, is it cool or is it not cool?" What do they say?
My kids aren't really into this knowledge, so they haven't read my book. I tell my son a little bit about it, and he's not ready for this knowledge yet. So, my kids are just kind of just letting me do my thing, and they do their thing, and they know that I'm passionate about my work, and they respect that.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful to know your humanity. You know what I mean? To know that you have a family, to know that you have a wife that you're taking care of, and to know about your kids, because that makes you, for me, believable. Because sometimes when we get into these big conversations of our cosmic origin, but we don't, really share who we are in this third dimensional reality, it gets difficult for people to relate to. And then they keep on putting you on a pedestal. He is our hero. He's our new hero. And I want to humanize you on a certain level. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's really lovely to know that you have a beautiful family around you, that you're human after all. Vivian, anything from you?
No, just to say thank you, Ismael, for your time and for being open as you always are. And thank you for sharing, and my warmest good wishes to you and your wife and your kids. And yes, thank you again.
And I also want to mention, before you say thank you, Ismael, I also want to mention that I signed up for your course. I think that everybody should sign up for Ismael's course. And, we can reference this in our podcast and also on our platform. I think this is a beautiful thing to study and learn from you, because you're such a powerful teacher. I am going to show the book once again. I think that people should have this book. This is a really, really beautiful and interesting perspective on who we are, what we are, why we're here. It really decodes the history of our reality in a completely different way, and it shifts your perspective completely. So I'm just inviting everybody who's listening to our podcast to explore, to get in there, to really open up into the new possibilities, because it's a new and fresh thinking. And we always love new and fresh thinking on this podcast. And thank you, Ismael. Anything that you would love to leave our audience with? Any last conclusion from you? How do you feel about talking to us, and your final message?
I just want to thank everyone for being receptive, being willing to understand this knowledge that I've been presenting. I also want to let everybody know that my Starseed cosmology class is booked till October, so I do have a few spots left for the October course. And for those that are interested in learning in depth to see what star system they're from, what star race they resonate with, and really understand our Starseed mission, I would strongly suggest to take my course. You'll have a better understanding of yourself and why you volunteer to come to the Earth. And I'll give you the link to the description. It's okay.
Of course, absolutely. Link, absolutely. We're linking everything, and we're loving you and Instagramming you and sharing you as well. Vivian, remember Bringers of the Dawn? You and I, we knew that we Pleiades, right? A long time ago.
Yeah, I remember reading that book on a plane to New York once, and my head saying to me, "Oh my God, this is outrageous. Why are you reading this?" And my heart saying, "Keep reading. Keep reading. This feels familiar." Yeah.
So thank you for reminding us. Thank you for connecting us to our cosmic origin, Ismael. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for being guest in TNM Unplugged today.
Thanks, Zoran. Thanks, Ismael. Bye for now. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.